It's one thing to understand the risk that extractive projects pose on the environment, but it's entirely another to have the correct standards that are recognized and accepted by everybody as the right mitigants. In this respect, the champion for the cause has been the United Nations Environmental Programme. In more recent times, the United Nations and industry have come together and also put together standards under the banner of the UN Global Compact. Of course, we also have the overriding United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These form an invaluable source of reference, but also a valuable source of what is considered best practice. When looking at mineral oil and gas projects upstream, the gold standard is what is known as the environmental impact assessment studies. As the term implies, these are studies by several scientists that look at the environment with a view to mitigating adverse effects of upstream oil and gas projects. Essentially, the scientists vary, but typically they include environmental scientists, geologists, ecologists. They also include social anthropologists, sociologists, and others. The focus of the studies is twofold. In the initial stages, the goal is to create a baseline, which is to say a basic understanding of what is known about the unique environment as relates to that particular environment. The second are more detailed studies by this stream of professionals, depending on what the baseline study delivers. And the purpose of these studies is basically to understand in greater detail the extent to which that environment is delicate, the extent to which damage might be done, and the extent to which the proposed approach to development is acceptable or it is not. The outcome of these studies is severalfold. First of all, it is the basis on which, from an environmental lens, projects can then be given the go-ahead by the authorities. But more importantly, it produces what is called the Environmental Management Plan. This plan is basically the tool for implementing the systems for mitigating risk, but it is also a monitoring tool for those in authority, but also the project managers, to assess impact and to adjust the mitigations as the project life cycle continues. Here the focus is on monitoring, for instance, levels of emission and moderating them, levels of pollution, levels of water contamination, and mitigating before it is too late. It is also here that specifically and unique plant and animal species are identified and processes put in place to protect them, to ensure that they are not extinct. In recent times, environmental management plans have also been forward-looking in that they look at the post-mining phase, which is to say, how do we, once the mining has concluded, how do we reclaim the environment and restore it to its original form as the operations decommission. Even more recently, projects in mining oil and gas have invested in what is called carbon offsets, which is to say, to look at the project's carbon footprint and mitigate it by undertaking activities that essentially counter the effects of carbon emissions. A good example is, for instance, taking a huge piece of land and cultivating trees, which then have the positive effect of countering the depletion of the ozone layer. In a nutshell, environmental assessment, environmental management plans are intended to ensure enough detailed and specific understanding of a particular project to allow for a specific plan that is verifiable, measurable, but also that is regulated to be put in place in order to protect the environment.